Good afternoon. Today is lesson 60, and what we're going to be doing is kind of building off of what we worked on the other day, which is finding a fraction to complete a whole. Finding a fraction to complete a whole. Now, the name of the lesson is probably the hardest thing that you're going to be having to work with today, because if you can remember the other day's lesson with working with one, this is going to be a piece of cake, because what we're going to be doing is finding a fraction to complete a whole, which is to make one. Finding the fraction part that is needed to make one. So that's what we're doing today in lesson 60. Now basically, let's start off with just a quick reminder that when we're looking at one, you can give me any fraction imaginable that would be equal to 1 so long as you have the same number on the top and on the bottom. So I could say 8/8. You could give me any number of other fractions that equal 1, again, so long as your numerator and denominator are the same. Well, what we're going to be looking at today in picture form is if I have read 1/3 of my book is read, what do I have left to read? Well, there again, if you look at it, and let's go up here and take away this and turn this fraction into 3/3. Well, between looking at the numeric version of it and looking at the picture version of it, you can see that this is quite simple. I've read 1/3, and I have left 2/3 to read. Well, again, we don't always just draw pictures for fractions. What we want to do is we want to do it mathematically. So if I say 3/3 minus the 1/3 that I read, when I subtract fractions with common denominators, the denominator stays the same, and I subtract numerators. 3 minus 1 equals 2. So here you see the picture version of it, here you see the math version of it, and that is basically our lesson today. We'll practice a little bit more on the video together, but that is all that we're doing, is figuring out how to make a whole when you have only a part, like we had a part to start with. So let's do a few more as practice just to make sure you're getting it, and then we'll move on in class next time. Okay, your book is going to do quite a bit with pictures at the introduction of this lesson. I think that you pretty much can see it in your head, so we're going to focus on the numbers. But again, it is possible to always draw them out. But let's just say I ate 1/5 of the pizza last night. So how much do I have left to eat? Well, if I was going to look at it, I know that the whole pizza would be 5/5, because that has to equal 1. That's the whole pizza, minus the 1/5 that I ate equals what? Go ahead and write your answer. Hopefully you wrote 4/5. Now again, you can check it with addition by saying 4/5 plus 1/5 equals 5/5. So it's pretty easy to see how you're just going to have to go your whole is your fraction as a 1. Let's do another one. We'll say 6 of the students were reading the same book. How many of our other classmates were reading different books? Well, in this case, you have to know how many kids that we have in our class. We have 19 in our class. So 6 out of the 19 were reading one of the books. Now I then would have to go, well, my whole class is 19 out of 19. The 6 of them are reading the same book. So how many are reading another book would be 19 minus 6 equals 13 19ths. You can always tell your whole number fraction is going to come from your denominator, and then you subtract out how many you have to find out how many is left. Hopefully you're seeing how it is, again, goes back to that lesson of the other day of knowing how to shift from a whole or one into your fraction. And just one final one. I'm not going to write anything. I want you in your notes to write it all, and then I'll have you check because I'll write it at the end. 2/3 of the class are done with their science project. What fraction of the class still needs to finish it? Again, 2/3 of the class is done with their science project. What fraction of the class still needs to finish it? Well, hopefully you right away said 2/3 of the class are done with their science project. And I need to know how many of the whole class still needs to finish it. So the whole class being 3/3. So 1/3 of the class needs to finish. And voila, that's it. You are all set, remembering always that a whole or one is your fraction with the numerator and denominator the same. Hope that makes sense. We'll do a little more practicing with it when we're together next time, and I hope you have a splendid evening.